Artificial Sun, Chapter 4. Althea's heart throbbed in her throat as she looked at her fellow fledglings. Their crestfallen expressions and unsaid tension caused a rift between them. It had been a week since Bayard pulled them out of their beds in the middle of the night and led them to an escape. It wasn't easy. Althea's heart still tightened when she thought about the guard she had killed. Her first actual kill. She knew that the look in his eyes as she killed him was going to haunt her for days to come. Bayard explained the situation once the fledglings were making their way north from Edagene. Since Grunner was a mind controller, he had more of an advantage than a telepathist. He was able to disallow any telepathists access to the fledglings' brains so that they wouldn't be found. After the warden of Edagene found out what Althea had done, he set a bounty on her head. Somehow Grunner knew it was going to happen before it even did.
He said to keep going north, didn't he?
Ameera groaned as she walked. Althea couldn't blame her. They'd been walking non-stop for a week, only stopping to ration the food they managed to take, or to take shifts sleeping.
Where is bloody north anyway?
The temperature dropped with each day that they walked. The winter air was creeping in, and they weren't prepared for it all. Nobody responded to Ameera, not because they were being rude, but because they didn't know for sure either.
Why'd we have to leave too? Althea's the one they want.
Ameera continued, and Bayard sighed as he stopped in his tracks. This caused everyone else to stop too. They saw Bayard as their leader, without a doubt, even though he didn't want it. He was the most level-headed of all the fledglings, and also the one Grunner trusted the most. He didn't mention his troubles, but Althea could see the toll everything was taking on him. Losing Grunner, escaping Edagene, being a leader, everything was too much for him.
We're the last of his fledglings. We need to stick together. It's what he would have wanted.
Bayard's eyes were intense when he said this, his usual icy and calculating eyes guarded.
What he would have wanted?
Neolani's brows knitted together when she spoke, and a cloud of vapor escaped her lips due to the cold.
You mean it's what he wants?
Bayard swallowed hard.
Grunner told me not to hold my breath.
He caught himself looking vulnerable and straightened up, beginning his trek again.
Chances are he's dead already.
Althea swallowed hard. She wanted to protest, to say that Grunner wouldn't be dead. He was a fighter. But she knew one thing for sure. Grunner would risk his life 10 times over if it meant that his fledglings could escape. They'd torture him, no doubt, but once they would realize that he wasn't going to tell them anything, they'd kill him. They wouldn't give him a swift death. Edagene wasn't a place of mercy. Althea looked at Flynn for reassurance. He was ever the optimist, but ever since they'd left, he barely said a word to her. His face was expressionless, his violet eyes stone cold as he looked ahead of him. Her heart sank, but she didn't want to pry. The sun was dipping in the sky, and Bayard stopped walking.
We'll have to make camp out here for now. The further north we get, the more danger we will face. It's too risky, especially in the dark.
He faced his friends. He was despondent. Althea could see it, but she had no strength of her own to encourage him.
I'm surprised you lived this long,
Ambrose commented, but there was a hint of relief in his voice.
More surprised I never had to use this yet.
He tapped the hilt of the axe, which was strapped to his back.
Don't hold your breath.
Neolani sighed as she relaxed onto the ground, hugging herself due to the cold.
We're not deep north yet. Trust me, you'll know when we are.
Northern tribes, snow clans.
Azura sat down next to Neolani.
Titan creatures, corrupted elves. What's not to love down north?
she mumbled to herself and brought her knees to her chest.
We're not supposed to be in the real world. Not for a few years, anyway. We belong in the Queen's army.
Ameera started to say, but she was cut off.
We belong nowhere.
Bayard's voice was final and stern.
Don't you see? We are nothing but weapons to them. Do you think they'd kill Althea without killing us first? Do you think they trust us enough to keep their secrets?
7 hells, give me a break.
Flynn mumbled to himself, his eyes dark as he stalked off. Althea's chest fell as she watched the blonde-haired telepathist retreat. She swallowed hard. The knob in her throat grew and she took in a shaky breath.
Azura, Ameera, could you get a fire going?
She asked, meeting their gazes. Azura's eyes were hard and cold, while Ameera remained expressionless.
You want a forest fire, then? We'll need wood.
Azura snapped. Althea bit her tongue, but didn't retaliate. She didn't want to cause division, even when division was inevitable.
I'll get it.
Ambrose stood up. He removed his axe from its place on his back and looked at the fire generator. He looked like he wanted to say something, but decided against it before he walked in the opposite direction that Flynn went.
And I'll go get Flynn.
Althea sighed. The truth was that she wanted any excuse to get out of this situation, to escape the looks she was getting and the guilty feeling in her chest. She walked in the direction that he went, but realized she had no idea where he could possibly have ended up. She walked forward a little more until she heard the clanking sound of metal and grunts that sounded like Flynn's. Her heart rate increased as she realized that one of the northern threats could have gotten to him, so she started running in the direction of the noise, having already unsheathed her dagger. When she caught sight of him, she realized that the situation was far worse than anything she could have imagined. There were no northern threats, but Flynn was slashing his sword against a thick barked tree with all his might, hacking and slashing as the bark of the wood flew from the tree. She hastily put her dagger away and jogged up to Flynn, who still hadn't heard her.
Flynn.
She spoke, placing a hand on his shoulder, but he didn't stop. His anger and pain was getting the better of him as he continuously slashed against the tree. She placed her other hand on the side of his face and forced him to look at her.
Flynn, stop! You're ruining your sword.
His eyes softened slightly as he looked at her, even though they were glazed with impending tears. Within a second, his cold glance returned, and he pushed her hands off of him.
I don't care about that.
He threw his sword to the ground and paced a bit. Althea knew he was hurting. He loved Grunner, and the thought of him being dead.
You have to care. You need to defend yourselves in the times to come.
Althea's voice was soft. Flynn halted in his stride and faced her with a hard expression on his face and a cold sneer on his lips. He didn't look like the sun-favored telepathist she knew. He looked vulnerable and cold.
We need to be strong for Grunner. If we die out here, he died in vain. We can't let him die in vain.
I'll kill them all.
His voice cracked as he ran a hand through his hair. Impulsively, Althea stepped towards him and wrapped him in a hug. Instead of pushing her away, like she'd anticipated he would, he held tightly onto her as if he'd been craving comfort.
I'll kill every last one of them.
Althea placed a hand at the back of his head.
I know he was like a father to you, but you have me now, and I'm not going anywhere. Read my mind, you'll see.
She'd said without thinking.
I can't hear anything, Wildcard.
He calmed slightly, his muscles relaxing into the hug. She knew he was talking about the fact that Grunner disallowed anyone access into the minds of the fledglings. He tensed again.
I'm gonna get revenge for Grunner. Even if it means I'll have to kill Hellebore with my bare hands.
Which they both knew was unlikely. Althea pulled back slightly from the hug, placing a hand on his cheek as she stared deeply into his eyes.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that,
she said. Flynn let out a chuckle from his nose, but he didn't smile. Althea began to speak, but was interrupted to silence when she felt Flynn's lips on hers. She responded instantly as she shut her eyes and pulled him close. He kissed her hungrily, as if it would be the last thing he'd do, and despite the cold, Althea's body was warm with desire. When they kissed, their troubles washed away, and the world disappeared. It was just them, and Flynn wanted to cling to that feeling for as long as he possibly could. Flynn backed her up onto a battered tree and gripped her thigh as his other hand cradled her lower back. He pushed his body tightly towards hers, and she let out a groan of pleasure.
We should...
She managed to breathe out as Flynn's lips left hers and found their way to her neck. She gripped a handful of his hair and threw her head back to allow him easier access, despite her words.
Stop. We should stop.
Flynn pulled back, panting softly as he placed a hand on the tree behind her and leaned towards her slightly. His eyes were dark with desire, and his lips were pink and moist. He swallowed hard as he trailed his other hand across her cheek.
Okay,
he said before he pulled away. Althea watched wordlessly as he went to pick up his sword. She watched him as he slid his sword into its scabbard, but it didn't go unnoticed.
What?
Nothing,
she said, avoiding his eyes. He walked towards her again, and every part of her wanted to pull him back into another heated kiss, but she resisted the temptation. He was in front of her and held her face in his hands before placing a kiss on her forehead.
We'll look out for each other, okay? I don't trust anyone else.
Althea opened her mouth to speak, but instead she sighed.
I don't either,
she admitted.
I trust Bayard without a doubt, but I don't know about the others.
They blame you for Grunner's death.
Flynn's voice was serious and troubled.
They blame you for everything.
Althea's brows knitted together in confusion.
How do you...
I don't have to be a mind reader to see what's going on.
He held her gaze.
I might have heard Ameera and Azura talking last night too.
He fidgeted with the hilt of his sword, which he almost blunted just a few minutes ago.
Just...
He sighed softly.
Watch your back.
He turned and walked away, leaving Althea rooted to the spot. Watch her back. When she was alone, she allowed a bubble of ironic laughter to escape her lips. Watch her back. Seems she had enemies everywhere. Enemies she'd made by just being herself. Something shifted inside her. She hadn't murdered Pellinore in cold blood. She was trying to help him. The pain that she experienced when helping the other fledglings was unbearable, but she did it anyway, in spite of it. Yet they blamed her for everything. She hadn't done it on purpose. None of this was planned or supposed to happen. Pellinore died because she healed them. He died because they lived. She was hurt and offended to the point that she could feel the betrayal in her stomach. A new darkness washed over her eyes. Althea made her way back to where they were camping, determined to watch her back. The seven gathered around the fire in silence, until eventually Neolani spoke.
This makes me think of him.
She admitted, drawing her knees to her chest. The flames reflected a glowing orange in her mismatched eyes. They hadn't made a nightly fire since they had escaped Edagene, but it had been too long and the nights were only getting colder. There was a short silence, save for the fire that crackled in front of them. Azura's hands were looming over the fire, and the flames matched her hair.
I didn't make this fire so you could talk about him,
she said darkly, but it was just a facade. She was hurting. She'd never admit it, but she loved Grunner, and she hated that he died for them.
He was always so excited for the bonfire. He called it the bonfire because it's where he bonded with us the most.
Neolani continued with a sad chuckle. The melancholy atmosphere washed over everyone, mingled with the cold.
He'd always burn that stupid marshmallow.
Enough of that.
Bayard changed the subject. All eyes turned to him, and he let out a soft sigh.
Grunner was a good man, and we all loved him. But we can't dwell on what happened. It'll only slow us down. We don't know why we're going north. We don't know what's awaiting us, but Grunner said once we find it, we'd know.
And what about Pellinore, huh?
Azura asked, and Ambrose visibly flinched at the mention of his dead best friend.
What about him? Are we not allowed to talk about him either? Let's all address the elephant in the room, shall we?
Her head turned to Althea, who combated her gaze with a calm, calculating expression, wordlessly warning her to watch her mouth.
Azura, don't.
Flynn wanted to talk, but without breaking her gaze, Althea interrupted him.
No, let her speak.
Her voice was unanimously calm and venomous.
I'd love to hear what she has to say.
It was high time that somebody put Azura in her place, and Althea had been wanting to do it for ages, but she was so set on keeping the peace that she didn't realize there was no peace to begin with. Azura's eyes glared daggers at Althea as she looked at her now.
We're all thinking it. This whole thing is your fault.
I'm not a telepathist. I don't know what you're all thinking.
Althea narrowed her eyes slightly, focused on steadying her breathing.
If it weren't for you, Pellinore and Grunner would still be alive.
It was Ameera who spoke now, backing up her companion.
And you'd all be dead.
Althea snapped her gaze to Ameera, who cowered slightly. Nobody had ever seen the girl so pissed. The least equipped fledgling always watched her mouth, regardless of what she was feeling.
Yes, I killed Pellinore.
She didn't flinch when she said this, but Neolani did.
But I also saved your worthless lives, and not a day goes by where I don't wish that I saved him first and you last.
She looked at Azura when she said this. Azura said nothing as Althea talked, but didn't back down or shift her fiery glare.
But I'm not a time traveler, luckily for you. We're stuck in this situation together. We could go around playing the blame game all we want, but it doesn't change anything. You could stand with me when a greater threat comes, or you could stand against me. Your choice. No to sleep with one eye open if you choose the latter.
There was silence as Althea stood up to walk away, but her heels dug into the dirt when Azura spoke again.
Was that a threat, Althea?
Althea's back was facing everyone when Azura said this, and she turned her face ever so slightly.
It was a warning.
She said before walking towards her rock tent. Ameera had set up rock tents for everyone using her earth skills, and the entrance was a flap of woven tree leaves. When Althea was in her tent, she released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She'd never addressed Azura so openly before, and she felt alive, stronger somehow, a fire ignited in her that night, a fire that nobody would be able to douse for a long time. There was silence at the campfire before they spoke again, aware that Althea could hear every word.
Nice going, you two.
Neolani was the one who spoke next.
None of this was Althea's intention, but we're in this situation if you like it or not. We have to stick together. We're the last of his fledglings.
Seven hells, would you shut up about him, you stupid whore?
Azura released her pent-up frustration that she'd been holding in.
Nobody cares.
She stood up and stormed to her tent.
I don't know why you guys are defending her. But sooner or later, you'll realize wherever the healer goes, death seems to follow.
Were Ameera's parting words for the night. The fire crackled some more, and Flynn let out a breathy chuckle.
Our fire girl and her pet elementalist are gone, so let's make the most of this fire while we can.
He leaned his body closer to the fire. Bayard swallowed hard and ran a hand across his face.
We need to get past this if we want to survive. We have to be a united front. We need it now more than ever. We're 7 students, 7, trying to get as far north as possible. When the snow clans or northern tribes attack, they'll see 7 threats. They won't see that we aren't even on the same side.
There was a pressing silence as Bayard stood up.
We'll all be dead within a fortnight.
To understand what the future holds.
A disembodied voice appeared to Althea in a dream, the same feminine voice she'd heard on the night of the bonfire.
You have to understand where it all began.
There was a flash of a hospital room, and a piercing cry of a baby filled the atmosphere. Althea watched from a third person's point of view how a baby was handed to a tired woman. Even though her eyes were tired, her happiness was evident in her smile.
Congratulations.
A nurse who held the baby spoke as she passed it along.
It's a boy.
Before Althea could see anything further, she saw flashes of war before her eyes. She saw lifeless bodies piled up in front of her, and Edogene burning in the distance.
What's happening?
Althea asked herself, tugging at the hair on her head, as if to rattle the voice inside.
Who are you?
She screamed, though not much louder than the dying soldiers around her were screaming.
To understand where it all began.
The voice continued, and Althea was suddenly in a throne room. It was cold and grim, with gray walls and ice statues at the bottom of steps that led to a throne made of stone.
You must come and find me.
The voice seemed distant, and Althea dropped to her knees as a ringing filled her ears until they started to bleed.
Who?
She gritted her teeth as she forced herself to stand up.
In 7 hells!
She struggled to breathe as the ringing continued.
Are you?
Come and find me, but watch your back.
The voice continued and the ringing stopped. Althea's breaths came out in pants as a calmness washed over her, despite being told once again to watch her back. The voice continued.
There are enemies everywhere.
Before Althea could speak, she felt a pain in her chest. She slowly lowered her head to see her own gold-bladed dagger protruding from her chest. When the realization hit, the unbearable pain followed, and she was forced to her knees again. She turned her head to catch sight of her attacker, but before she could, her eyes shot open and she bolted upright into a sitting position. Her throat was dry and her face was beaded with sweat. Her hand went to her chest, and although it was only a dream, there was a slight pain where she had been stabbed. Troubled, she exited her rock tent to see Bayard by the remnants of the fire, sharpening his curved sword with a whetstone. He lifted his head when he heard the commotion, and his eyes found hers before he lowered his gaze to his weapon once again.
My shift just begun.
His voice was deep and strained, indicating just how tired he really was.
It's not yours yet.
That's not what woke me.
Althea sat on the edge of the fire, opposite Bayard.
I keep hearing this voice telling me to come and find her, but I don't know what it means. Tonight she appeared to me in my dreams. She told me to watch my back, and I got stabbed with my own dagger. When I turned to see the face of my attacker, I woke up.
How long has this been going on?
Bayard spoke above the volume of the whetstone clanking against his blade. He seemed oddly calm about it, but Althea could tell when she looked at him that he wasn't. Whenever he was troubled, a crease would appear between his eyebrows.
It started when the bear attacked. I don't think it was a bear at all. I think...
She was about to perk up and lay down all her possible explanations, but then her shoulders slumped and she brought her knees to her chest.
I don't know what to think.
Bayard said nothing, but he was no longer sharpening his blade, choosing to gaze intently at Althea instead.
I'm sorry I got us into this mess.
Her voice was barely above her whisper, and she wasn't the strong girl she was when she told Azura off. She felt like she didn't need to be that girl in front of him.
It's not your fault. Not really. But wondering doesn't change anything.
Bayard said.
Grunner said we should be looking for something. When we find it, we'd know. Do you think whoever's sending you those signals could be bad?
Without hesitation, Althea shook her head.
I think she wants to help. But why?
Do you seriously need me to spell it out for you?
Bayard pursed his lips into a line.
You're special. Only fledgling I know with 2 powers and the most amazing combat skills.
Althea eyed Bayard and smiled softly.
Thanks. You're the only one who sees the good in me right now.
I've got you something, actually.
He placed his blade down and reached for his belt, pulling out twin daggers. Althea noticed the symbol engraved on the hilts, the dragon she'd seen on the bow and arrow she thought Pellinore would love.
I noticed you didn't grab any weapons that Grunner set out, so I took these for you.
Althea stood up and walked towards him before kneeling down next to him and taking the daggers from his grip.
How do they feel?
Bayard asked. Althea twirled the daggers in her fingers, and her lips slowly curved upwards. Nervous at her silence, Bayard continued.
It isn't gold-plated like yours, but it's made from spring steel, which is good for...
Before he could finish his sentence, Althea tackled him into a hug.
I love it. Thank you.
She grinned and quickly stood up, twirling the daggers in her hands. She hadn't realized how pretty she looked when she genuinely smiled, but Bayard did. She noticed him staring and shifted her gaze to him.
Look what I've been practicing,
she said before the dagger zoomed past his face and into the tree behind him, barely scraping past him. He whipped his head behind him to see the dagger lodge deeply in the center of the tree. When he looked back at Althea, he nodded proudly.
Well done. You're good at that.
High praise coming from our leader,
she playfully said as she went to retrieve her dagger. She spun it around a bit before securing both daggers into her belt. When she looked at Bayard, she noticed the stress he'd been feeling made its way into his shoulders.
I don't want to be the leader,
he admitted when Althea sat across from him again.
I'm not a leader. I'm one of you.
Except you're different,
Althea said.
You've always been different. You're honest and loyal and honorable and level-headed. You're the perfect person to lead us.
I'm not so sure,
he confessed.
I don't think I've earned it.
You have.
Althea pressed.
We look to you now. You're the leader we chose, because we know you'll do everything in your power to keep us safe.
Bayard studied her face for a long moment before a tiny smile found its way onto his lips. He rarely smiled. He always looked brooding and in his own head, and this was the most Althea's seen him smile.
I'm glad you believe in me.
He nodded.
Just like how I believe in you.
You're not going soft on me, are you?
She mirrored his half-smile, but he chuckled and picked up his blade again to sharpen it. He didn't answer her, and she didn't mind. Being with Bayard took her mind off the dream and the uncomfortable feeling in her chest.
Let's play a game.
Althea grinned slightly. Bayard cocked a brow upward, but didn't shift his gaze from his blade.
What do you have in mind?
There was a hint of skepticism in his voice.
Put down the whetstone for a second.
Althea said as she straightened up.
This game is psychological. You say something about yourself, and I have to guess whether you're lying or not.
Or...
Bayard set aside his weapon and whetstone once again.
You guess something about me, and I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
The edge of Althea's mouth curved up as she thought, before she met his gaze.
Deal.
She adjusted herself so that she was comfortably facing him.
You are dark and brooding.
Bayard furrowed his brows a bit and let out a small chuckle.
You're wrong.
No, that was an obvious one. I knew I'd be right about it. Your turn.
Bayard raised his legs so that his knee was cocked up towards the sky before he lazily swung his arm over it and leaned forward to stare at her with an engrossed expression on his face as he analyzed her.
You have a fear of heights.
He took a guess, but the amused expression that crept onto Althea's face told him he was wrong.
That was an awful guess. You didn't even try.
She bellowed, but lowered her voice when she realized the other fledglings were still asleep.
I have one.
She leaned forward and narrowed her eyes as she studied his face.
You want people to think you're closed off and guarded, but really, you're soft inside.
He didn't flinch.
I don't care how others see me.
Fine.
Althea deflated, leaning back.
Your go.
You blame yourself for Grunner's death and can't stop thinking about it. You also worry that we're all in danger because of you.
Althea's face fell slightly, and she coughed.
Wow. You don't hold back.
Bayard's eyes didn't leave her.
So I'm right.
She didn't answer, but instead held out her hand.
Pass me that whetstone, would you?
Wordlessly, Bayard passed the whetstone to her, and she pulled one of her daggers out to sharpen it.
You're right to an extent.
She lied to him.
I don't care what happens to Azura and Ameera. Really.
Sure you don't.
He didn't believe her, not even one bit. He leaned back on his hands and tilted his head up to the sky as he spoke to her.
One more.
She cracked out a tiny smile, but her gaze didn't shift from her dagger and the whetstone.
One more. Better make it count then.
She taunted him before she pretended to think.
Let's see.
She looked up to see his face, but his gaze was still concentrated on the sky above them.
You've been in love before.
The statement startled him, but he didn't show it. He looked at her and swallowed hard as the embers of the fire casted a glow on her face. She really didn't know, did she? He was going to open his mouth to speak, but then she broke out into a sudden smile.
Gotcha. Oh, you should see your face.
She laughed a bit, and he responded with a weak chuckle as she stood up.
I was just messing around to see your reaction. But I probably should get to bed.
She handed the whetstone to him and placed her dagger securely by the side of her hip.
Night, Bayard,
she said as she walked to her tent. The time decelerator didn't respond. He was too stunned to. He released a breath he didn't know he was holding before he tilted his head up to the sky once again, as if they held the answers he so desperately sought.